Mr. President, just recently, last week, I chaired a hearing at the Joint Economic Committee entitled Examining the Employment Effects of the Affordable Care Act. The purpose of the hearing was to discuss how the Affordable Care Act has continued to affect the ability of Americans to earn and do business, and particularly that of small businessmen. The impact of the Affordable Care Act, better known as Obamacare, is particularly important to discuss at this point, this year, now that the delayed employer provisions are in effect and employers are feeling the pinch, and frankly, pinch is the wrong word. They're feeling the hammer blow of the burdens imposed on them, both regulatory and from a tax standpoint, that are directly affecting their ability to grow, provide jobs, expand their business. The Congressional Budget Office estimates that the law, Obamacare, will reduce the total number of hours worked by as much as 2% from the years 2017 to 2024. People say 2%, is that a big deal? Yes, it is a big deal. It is equal to 2.5 million full-time equivalent jobs for workers who are looking for those jobs. So here we have a piece of legislation that was touted as the best thing since sliced bread or more. It was touted as providing economic growth, providing millions of jobs to Americans, and yet the Congressional Budget Office, not a tool of the Republican Party, simply an independent, nonpartisan agency that looks over how we spend money here and what the impact of our federal policies and laws is on the economy, has said that 2.5 million full-time equivalent workers will lose their jobs because of Obamacare. CBO reasoned that this would result from new taxes embedded throughout the Obamacare program, not talked about when this was passed. In fact, nothing was talked about when this was passed in terms of the way people could understand it, as acknowledged by the former head of the House of Representatives. But new taxes and measures that employers will face, and the financial benefits that some will impose or be imposed and receive. CBO estimates a 1% reduction in total pay over the same time frame as a result of Obamacare. This was something that was sold to the American people without credibility, and all the promises that were made, some so defiantly made by the president. Take my word for it, period, he said. Not one penny of increase in your premium costs. Keep your doctor. If you like your doctor, keep your doctor. If you like your health care plan, keep your health care plan. What a misrepresentation of the bill this has been. And I have received tens of thousands of contacts in my office by email, by regular mail, by phone calls, by descriptions of the impact that this law has had and the broken promises that have imposed higher premiums, higher copays, higher deductibles, higher costs to the American people. So we anxiously await the decision of the Supreme Court, which will be coming in several weeks here or less, to see where we go next. But I want to take this opportunity to share just one story of one company and the head of that company and what that one small company that is providing needed and good jobs for Hoosiers in my state, what they've had to endure under this particular law. And I think this expressed so well by the head of that company, his name is Dr. Joseph Sergio, president of the Sergio Corporation, came before our committee, and it was some of the most clear and defined discussion of the impact, the personal impact on families and workers of the Obamacare Act, and what it's done to his small business, I think, was representative of millions of small businesses across the country. Dr. Sergio is a first-generation American citizen whose family business was founded 36 years ago. His father was an Italian immigrant who came to America to realize the American dream, and he did. Dr. Sergio expanded his father's business, which includes First Response. It's a national award-winning disaster restoration company involved in every major hurricane and storm disaster in recent history, with awards for their performance and how effectively and efficiently they brought response to people who needed it following these disasters. And Polar Clean, another company he has, a green, environmentally friendly, dry ice blast cleaning industrial service. We talk about going green, we talk about caring about our environment, and this is a revolutionary way of cleaning any number of factories, businesses, energy companies, and so forth with a new environmentally friendly process. Here's what Dr. Sergio said in committee, and I quote, "As a small business, we have felt the profound imposition of the Affordable Care Act, or," he said, "as it is known among many small business entrepreneurs, the Unaffordable Care Act." As a small business owner, Dr. Sergio said, "To be successful, I need to be able to accurately identify, forecast, and control expenses in order to create profits, which would then be reinvested in our growing business. That means new jobs and new opportunity." That, he said, is where the frustration with Obamacare begins. Now look, what Dr. Sergio outlined, it's Economics 101. It's the first thing you learn in an economics class or the first thing your parents tell you. To be successful, and I wish this applied to the federal government, to be successful, you have to control your costs. You have to identify and forecast what your expenses are going to be in the future and make sure that you can cover those. And only when you make a profit, so we're only seeking neutrality here in federal government, but only when you make a profit as a business can you grow that business and put more people back to work. Obamacare, Dr. Sergio said, has imposed a whole set of complications and regulations on small business owners that obscures their ability to do just that, to identify, forecast, and control expenses. This makes it difficult, he said, to determine profits that are needed to increase employee wages, expand research and development, and invest in new equipment. For a company working in disaster response, all of this is important. He said, but all of this is important for any company. Dr. Sergio said that his business has been forced to make major changes to meet the requirements imposed by Obamacare. They had to drop their health care plan because it didn't meet the requirements of Obamacare, even though it had been worked out between the employer and the employees, and they were happy with their plan. As a result, his employees, he said, in the company are paying more for an inferior policy. Employees are now paying larger copays and larger deductibles, he said. Some are opting to pay the penalty rather than absorb the high cost of Obamacare. This not only illustrates how Obamacare affects businesses, but how it directly affects families all across our nation. Small business owners are angry because Obamacare promised to lower costs for the average family by $2,500. That was another broken promise from the White House. This will lower your costs by an average of $2,500. Rather, Obamacare now has increased the price of insurance and decreased the quality of affordable insurance. In addition to quality insurance, the mandate has affected his company's growth, said Dr. Sergio. Small business owners have a limited amount of capital to spend on their labor pool and employees. The mandates of Obamacare have pushed spending over to the benefit side, and this limits the amount of day-to-day compensation increases a company can provide. This is not only demoralizing to the employee, he said, but frustrating to the employer. That is seeing capital going into an Obamacare-compliant benefits plan that is not benefiting their employees as well as it used to. So all the touting of all the magnificence of this Obamacare, helping those have better insurance coverage without increasing their cost, is a fraud. It is simply not turned out to be what it was promised to be. And it doesn't benefit his employees, small business employees, as well as the plans they had before, he said. So this is Dr. Sergio's current dilemma. He has a history of providing a strong benefits package, paying up to 50% of employee and dependents insurance, and now is unsure how he can keep it under the new law. He testified that surpassing 50 employees would now bring on more administrative costs and reporting requirements, causing him to purposely stay under the 50-employee threshold and utilize more part-time employees that work less than 30 hours per week. We have heard story after story after story on this floor. I have hundreds, if not thousands, of messages coming into my office simply saying I have no choice other than to put my full-time employees on a part-time basis, and I have no choice of adding new employees if it takes me over the 50 threshold, because it puts me into all these regulations and impositions by Obamacare. And so it's having a dramatic negative effect on employment, on business growth, and that is where the jobs are. It's not the big companies as much as it is small companies in America, and they're being strangled over these regulations and taxes imposed, and the regulations telling them that no, what they have put together that their employees are happy with, that allow the employer to be profitable so that they continue to maintain their benefits and increase their wages, simply is out the window under Obamacare. Can we repair the damage of Obamacare? Dr. Sergio closed his remarks with this request, and I quote, "Please work to undo the vast harms that Obamacare has caused and is causing to the middle class and start over, addressing the essential issue of unleashing small businesses to create millions of new jobs which could raise most people from being at risk and into truly affordable plans." As a small business entrepreneur and job creator, I urge you, Dr. Sergio said, to repeal Obamacare and allow for market innovation within the health industry, and allow for pooling across state lines, and allow small business freedoms from oppressive requirements, new taxes and fees, and increased uncertainty. I was moved by his testimony, and that's why I'm standing here today, so we can put it in the record. I was moved by his experience of how Obamacare has impacted his business decisions in a negative way, how it has hurt his employees, the families of his employees, how it has restricted him from expanding his business, how it has cost him from going from a profitable business to which he could do more research, do innovation, pay more, provide more benefits to his employees, to a situation where he now has to reduce those benefits, where he has to sit down with his employees and saying, I'm sorry, under the requirements of this new act, this is where we are as a company. We can't continue to give you the benefits you once had. We can't raise your wages because we are not making profits. And it's either go out of business or it is try to struggle along under this new law, which is why he believes we need to change it. And I certainly agree with that. And I think this is backed by tens of millions of businesses all across America. We can all agree with the goal of ensuring access to quality care when it's needed. I don't think anyone on this floor has disputed that fact. Unfortunately, a one-size-fits-all government-run healthcare system is not the answer. We're looking for the best workable, real-world solution for Americans and their health care, and we have not hit that mark. This Congress has failed, and this administration has failed to hit that mark. We should pursue initiatives that truly make health care an option for all. Such initiatives should drive down costs by increasing competition and transparency, reforming medical malpractice, making health insurance portable, promoting pooling options for small businesses, and giving states greater flexibility in how they deliver their services. Dr. Sergio should should have better certainty for his business, and all small business people should have better certainty for their future. His employees should have a better health care system, as do all Americans. These are the goals we need to reach. We should strive for a system that puts individuals squarely in charge of their health care and that doesn't discourage Americans from working and improving their earnings. That is the American dream Dr. Sergio's father sought to achieve when he started his business 36 years ago. That is the dream we should pursue. And yet we are hampered in doing that by the onerous regulations, taxes, stipulations imposed by the health care law passed by one party without any input from the opposing party, famously labeled as something that we will need to learn about after it is passed. Probably the most telling statement by a member of Congress, in this case the former Majority Leader and then Speaker of the House of Representatives, something shoved down Americans' throat without any bipartisan support whatsoever. Now, yes, if it had been read before it was passed, we could have avoided all this. It's been debated, and people had looked to find a bipartisan way of moving forward to provide health care for uninsured and to ensure that what the health care plan that they imposed would not have these negative effects. That is what should have happened. It didn't. We have a chance to rectify that. We have a chance to remedy that. We're waiting for a Supreme Court decision before we go forward with an alternative to what has cost us in terms of jobs and cost small businesses in terms of their ability to grow. That is part of the American dream. We have denied that under this health care program, and I'm hoping my colleagues can join us as we look to address this very important issue, important for not only the health of the American public, important for the growth of our economy. Mr. President, with that, and I do note the absence of a quorum.